What up, what up, what up? Bankroll Tim, bet it up. All right, y'all. 1967 Cadillac Deville, coupe Deville, convertible, whatever. Deville, it says Deville on the dash. 26-inch Forgiatos, 7-inch rear lip. Now, yes, of course, you guys have seen this car before. It's been through a lot of hands, and almost everybody that touched it from the time he got it to the time I got it, a lot of things got jacked up. I mean, beyond jacked up on it. The motor, 376 LSX, is installed in there, and it's sitting too high. So therefore, as high as the motor was sitting in there, the trans was very close to the floor. They cut a support brace setup structure out of the middle of the car through the trans tunnel to make drive shaft clearance. Well, the drive shaft still ended up rubbing that area. So they put a 96 Impala SS rear end in it, which was a good deal to do. Was the best option, because the rear ends that came in these cars like this were piece of shits. So they had the calipers forward, meaning front of wheel, you know, front of wheel right there. You can see they're clocked down real far, boom. They had them on the front side, so the car was riding on the caliper. The car has never, ever been able to drive as far as I've drove it. I did drive it down the street, but it's got like either the fuel pump is turning off and not keeping enough fuel to the front, or just not keeping enough fuel to the front. I don't do LS motors. I don't do injection. I'm not going to lie and say I know this and I know that. Something's wrong. The car needs to be rewired. That's where it's going next to get it wired. Again, the car is a 67. I had posted a reel on IG, and I put a text on the title, or on the picture, on the video, blah, blah, and I had typed it wrong, and it says 1976. A couple people corrected me. Obviously, I know, I fucked up. But anyways, so the 96 Impala SS rear end has the ears on the top for the upper control arms. These cars, the ears are placed on the inside of the tube closest to the housing. The car is dirty, very dirty, as you can see. House open. This snow will get a little bit wet. I got hard water here, so I didn't want to rinse it off. But with this, once I get it back in later, but it's gonna leave today. If I pull it back in later, I can blow it off, wipe it down with some soft towels, get as much debris off if it's possible. But anyways, so clocking the calipers in the back, making upper control arm mounts on the housing, doing the super drop boxes, all that. If you guys have paid attention to the videos, I know I've had this car, what, almost 3 months. Everything I touched, I just ended up running into more BS after BS after BS. The caliper brackets that they had made on the back, they had just threw together with some nasty ass steel, drilled some holes, took the badass TCE brackets, Todd TCE, Arizona, the aftermarket big brake setups for all these cars and any car. They took and they drilled his brackets and fucked his brackets all up. So then me and him had to go back and forth, this and that, and figure out the right bolt up bracket that would bolt to the housing, which I changed the housing ends, stuff like that, to a 10 bolt, 12 bolt bolt up. So we were able to figure that out after 2 times of him sending me a template, so we could be sure that it would fit. So the center bore and all that stuff. But yeah, clocking the caliper down like that. When you narrow rear end, and you have to narrow it far enough, you move the whole lower, you end up getting into the lower control arm mount. You end up getting into where the caliper is in line with the frame. So you have to lower the caliper. There's nothing wrong with lowering the caliper, clocking the caliper, making the caliper sit down at the bottom, as long as you get all the air out. There's those plates out there being made for the frames and stuff like that for you guys that want to do it that way. Jose at the billet stop in Texas, he makes those plates. Good idea, this and that. I prefer clocking the ends, whichever way you want to do it. My point is, these people out there that want to talk shit and say that, oh, that looks stupid, and why would you do that, and all this and that. Listen, there's nothing wrong with the caliper being clocked down like that. And look at this car. Look how low this car is. Look at the skirt. If the caliper was up in the stock area, you wouldn't see the caliper. Look where the caliper's at now. You can see the caliper. And the car's tucked. I'd want to be able to see my caliper, and it works. Okay, so there's that. The drive shaft was too long, so we had to have the drive shaft shortened. Pinion angle, they had hit like -6. It was so far down. All the brackets were on the rear end in the wrong spots, all fucked up. So I put the super drop boxes on there. I put the adjustable weld-on brackets on the back of the boxes, which I've been doing, Bedded Up Customs, Bankroll Tim, I've been doing for years. And so many of these other places out there told me, why am I doing that? Oh, you never use those holes, and oh, that's, you know, you're doing too much, and why? Now these places are doing it. All these other shops are doing it. Where'd they get it from? Where'd they follow it from? Where'd they get the pictures from? Who are they watching do it? Me, Bedded Up Custom, Bankroll Tim. All right. So then we got the frame bracing. I'm jumping off the subject a little bit, but still. Frame bracing, frame tying, rear end bracing, all that shit. I've been doing it for years, okay? Years. And so many shops, again, even paint shops. Like, you're a paint shop, dude, paint, okay? Don't worry about what the hell's going on with somebody's suspension or frame. Paint the damn car. So, you don't need no bracing on the frame. You don't need those bars underneath there. You don't need this, blah, blah, blah. Now look what everybody's doing. Everybody with horsepower and stuff like that. You're tying the car together. You're keeping the car tighter, squarer, being able to go to the track. When the car's tied together, the lower control arm boxes to the frame side are tied together. They don't flex up. You got a lot of power. The car tries to hook, and then you see the wheels release on the back. Break loose. They slip, they spin, lose traction. When your shit's all braced up and shit can't flex, you get better traction. Now there's more to it than just bracing it up. You got to know how to set the arm angle, the height of the car, stuff like that. But anyways, Bedded Up Customs, again, was the first to do a ton of shit in the Chicagoland area. Coilovers, narrow rear ends, you know, setting these cars up for fat lips, degreeing the spindles in the front so you get a sport steering, frame notching. I mean, we've been doing it since 2006. A lot of cars out there that have been done through Bedded Up Customs that the credit has never been given. Never. You know, then you got this other guy out there running his mouth thinking he's king shit, talking about stop capping. He's the biggest damn capper there is. Obviously, you know what I'm talking about. He's a lame. He's always going to be a lame. So, the Cadillac. The trans dipstick ended up being a major problem. This car has a turbo 400 trans in it. And they put a 4L80, 4L60 dipstick tube and dipstick in the fucking trans. Well, I initially thought it was the trans pan leaking because it had a cork gasket, and I don't like cork gaskets, and if you over tighten them, they leak. So I went and got a paper gasket, all that, redid that. I put a little bit of silicone on both sides of it. I scuffed the pan side up, I scuffed the trans housing side up, boom, I put it all together. Let it sit overnight. The next day I put 4 quarts in it, had no problem. Went to put 2 more quarts in it, and one of the girls that were sitting at the desk said it's leaking. So then I had to figure out where the hell it was leaking from. So I turned around, put the car back up on the, up in there, and there it is coming out of the dipstick of the trans. That's when I realized what the fuck's going on. I seen the dipstick tube going in the trans on a hell of an angle. I had my headlamp on. I could see over the header. I seen it on a hell of an angle. I seen silicone up there. I seen it leaking. So I had to pull the dipstick out, realize they had the wrong dipstick. I ordered the dipstick for a 75 Chevy Caprice with a big block Chevy and a turbo 400 trans. So I got that. Took a day or so with the rubber grommet. Put that in, and it wouldn't clear the firewall where the heater box is. Now, it would have cleared if the motor had been installed in the car properly. It's custom fitted in there because of the mounts. This car has two studs, you know, left stud and a right stud that stick straight up. It has the badass aftermarket mounts, like for a hot rod for the LS. They're adjusted all the way back, but they welded them to the frame side and they welded them too high. So it put the motor in the car too high. So then, before all this, for the dry shaft clearance, I had to turn around and lower the trans mount down some. So the trans mount itself, the rubber mount, had the extra piece of metal in there. Took that out, boom. But the trans cross member, I ended up lowering the trans cross member. So I had to cut the sides, plate it, weld it, gusset it, squared up, this and that. Got all that done, boom, and the motor is on a hell angle towards down back, this and that. So that caused some problems, but I was trying to get the dry shaft off the frame. The dry shaft is off the frame now. It's off the trans tunnel. If the stock brace had been in there still, it would hit it. That was another problem. The dipstick was a problem. Just kept running into all the crazy shit. The shifter linkage. These cars, even though it's a 67, still has a neutral safety switch with the shifter. So the column, the shifter has to be all the way up in park position for the ignition to turn to start. Accessory will come on, but start will not come on because of the neutral safety. So they had the shifter linkage so jacked up that you had to force the car into park. So when you get in it to start it, you would have to take your left hand over the column, pull the shifter up, and then turn the key and fidget with both the shifter movement and the key movement to get the ignition to start. Still having a slight, like 1 out of 10 times of starting it, you got to touch the shifter. It only moves like maybe a hair. So they might have to do something with the neutral safety switch, or maybe the ignition power is on and off, but it started right up today, no problem. So shifter linkage, I couldn't let the car leave like that. Originally he had bought the Willwood master cylinder and booster. Now the master cylinder and booster, the booster is really small, and the master cylinder is, you know, regular Willwood master cylinder. The car's braking. I think it's running out of vacuum, so the pedal has got some brake, and then the brake goes away. You got to push the pedal hard, but then the pedal's hard as a rock, like after about 4 inches of movement. I've bled the system and bled the system and bled the system. Well, then he had said that he had bought the brake calipers and motors and all that stuff, which is the big shit, after all that. So from all these years of doing this stuff, we know that there's different bore sizes on the master cylinders. Different bore sizes if you got a manual brake, which doesn't have a booster. Different bore sizes if you got hydro boost brakes, stuff like that. So that's another thing that he's going to have somebody do, which I already talked to him, and he's fine with that, to find out if the master cylinder and booster is correct for the big brakes. Now, as you can see on the rotor, it's broke in. Boom. The pad, the rotor, all that stuff is, all 4 wheels are broken. I drove it around last night, but it was like running out of gas, or not running out of gas. There's gas in it. You know, remember I put a gas tank in it, because when they originally put the coilovers on it, they had the coilovers on such an angle that when the car would go all the way down, the coil spring would hit the gas tank, the side of the gas tank where the seam is. Well, they decided to cut the seam. Well, when they cut the seam split. The car was leaking gas everywhere. Boom. So this car has just been, it's supposed to come in for me to straighten out the rear end setup, and then it just ended up with this and that and this and that and this and that. So that's why it's been here this long. I had to wait for stuff. I had to wait for that. I had to wait for whatever. The radius arms on the front of these cars for the lower control arms, they're a pain in the ass. This car actually drives straight. Let go of the steering wheel, drive straight. Put the 4G auto steering wheel on there. The car does have the big caps. He's having everything done. Car does have the big caps, and they're brand new. He had to send 2 of them back out to get redone because when the car went to those other shops, they had put 2 of the caps on, and then they took them off, and they didn't know how to take them off, and they fucking chipped the shit out of them. So I left them in the bags right there. Boom. There's no sense in putting them on because the right side tires, the back right likes to go low, and the right front likes to go low a couple pounds a day. So of course, if you had it sitting in the garage for a week, you'd probably come out and both tires would be flat. Then you gotta fucking air up the tires, this, that, whatever. So he's gonna take those off and have them resealed. I had to put new lug nuts all the way around it. They had weak ass 12mm 1.5 studs on the rear of the car, which weren't long enough. They over narrowed the rear end. The rear end was to the driver's side 1 inch. The back right rim was rubbing the inside of the tub, so I had to square up the rear end. I put 3-inch, 1/2-inch screw-in studs in the axle, so I had to take the axles, have them drilled and tapped. Boom. I actually have a 3/4 all-star black spacer on both sides to bring the wheels out because there was plenty of room to bring the wheels out on the back. So if you see the pictures of it before, it looked like the wheel was tucking a lot more because the wheel was in that 3/4 of an inch more, but I mean, it's still tucking. So for a lot of you guys saying this and saying that, shit takes time, and especially when you take the car to somebody that you know somebody else gives the okay, or says they're reputable, this and that, blah blah. Then you find out later that they're not, and they have no damn clue what they were doing, period. And it happens to a lot of people. And I end up fixing a lot of cars, and I fixed a lot of cars for many years of doing this. I've fixed and fixed and fixed. I'm not the first person to jump online and just negative. Bash this shop, this shop. And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I've never said I'm perfect. So there's cars I've done, and there's been little stupid shit here and there, this and that, over the years. So let's say out of 10 cars, 1 car has a problem. You never know exactly what the problem occurred from. You don't know if they fully paid me. You don't know if they then hustled me or not. There's a lot of things you don't know. So like when we're talking about other shops, and people are always quick to fucking jump on somebody that is like, hell yeah, fuck that shop, and they're riding with them when they don't even know the whole story. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, there's plenty of shops out there that just straight fuck people. Just give it to them. No Vaseline. So what I'm saying is, I'm not perfect. I've had shit go wrong. There's other things that led to shit going wrong. But I'm not trying to fucking bash everybody. I help. People call me from other shops. They ask me how to do this. They ask me how to do this. They ask me how to do this. And I help them, no matter who it is. And they all call. Don't let them lie and bullshit you. They all call. Been doing this many, many years. I've been posting pictures and videos and shit like that for many, many years. Have I perfected it? No, not at all. Have I changed the game from the beginning of this shit till now? I mean, shit, you guys see, we were putting cars in the air when we first started. In the air. And you could drive these things down the road and let go of the steering wheel. Nobody else could do that shit. Oh, you can go on the highway? Yeah, we can go on the highway. I can't. No, you can't even drive around a block without feeling like your shit's gonna fall apart. Anyways, got into myself there a little bit, but So, the 67 Cadillac convertible on these big cat 4Gs. 7-inch rear lip is done. Today, I think, was supposed to be a lot worse than what it turned out to be. It's trying to come down again right now, which I don't know how bad it's supposed to be. But like I said, if I gotta push it back in, or I mean drive it back in, it's just, you know what? I'll start it up. Fuck it. Let's see if the ignition is gonna bullshit me. There's the fuel pump. And then the coilover is real close to the outer frame rail. So, I mean, tailpipes can be put back on it. Just got to have the right exhaust shop to do it. Exhaust shops, they need to be where you drive the car on the lift, not a hanging lift. You know what I'm saying? A hanging lift that lets the suspension hang. You don't know where your clearances are. A good exhaust shop is going to have where the car drives on the lift and the lift goes up and the car sits on its weight, and then you see where the clearances are to bend the tube up and over. And somebody that knows how to use a bender, muffler pipe bender. So last night it was nighttime, this and that. Like I said, I wasn't getting enough fuel. The headlights and stuff like that don't work. Actually, the only thing that works on the dash is the wipers, and I was told that the wire harness was cut due to the old wire harness and how the LS motor was wired and all this and that. So things don't work. I would slide up underneath the back, but there's plenty of pictures of that. The car is set to where there's no back seat in it, shit like that. There's no weight in the trunk. I mean, there's some loose shit in there, but he will be able to keep that height right there, which I think is fine for this car. I think it's fine. Front, we put new tie rods. The center link was up against the oil pan, so the left inner tie rod bolt was scratching into the pan, so it would have only been a matter of time before it actually cut a hole into the pan or made it crack right there, and it had been leaking. Again, that was due to motor placement is too high. If the motor had been set down about 1.5 inches to 2 inches and back about 1.5 inches to 2 inches, which there's plenty of room. The header is clear, all that shit, plenty of room. If the motor had been set down in the car properly, none of them issues would have occurred. So, but I had to heat the center link and I pried it off of the oil pan, but I took my time and made sure that I heated the link out on the outside. I turned the wheel, heated the link, boom. So I got it off there, checked it while it's on the ground. It doesn't hit it. The radius arms on the front of the car that have the big bolts adjusted on the front frame, I actually was able to tighten that up, which brought the wheel forward, which would degree the spindle back, boom. Should have gave it a little bit of sport steering, but these cars, these front suspensions are fucking horrible. The worst suspension setup GM ever did on these cars. But there is plenty of places out there now that offer the center link, the idler arm. That was the big thing with this car, the idler arm. The idler arm, the stock ones or those rebuilt ones from California or some shit like that, reconditioned, they don't work. But there's a place now making them. So center link, idler arms, pitman arms, inner and outer tie rods, adjustment sleeves, shit like that. Upper control arms, these came from an air ride company. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I don't remember what the paperwork said, but they're just a 7/8 thick piece of metal with a nice center link, or a center cross brace. They got the right ball joint, which you can see I greased it plenty. So yeah, that's all good. But yeah, all right, y'all. That's 24, 25 minutes. Hopefully I was trying to explain some shit. I centered up the rear end good. They had the rear end way too far back. They had the fucking pinion angle facing the ground. They had no clue what they were doing. It does have Moser axles in it. C-clip. It's got what was that, 373 or a 410? 373 or 410, I don't remember. But another shop had set that up after the one shop had had it forever, and the 373 setup that they put in there, dude was backing out of the shop, and all he heard was crunch, 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 crunch in the rear end. So another shop, which again, I don't know your name, who did the rear end setup, the pinion, the gear, all that stuff. It's set up perfect. So the only bad part that I would say about that is with rear end covers. This has got the perfect launch rear end cover. I don't use gaskets. Again, I use a grinding wheel on the cover for the seal side, and I use the grinder on the rear end side, so it cuts grooves into it. And then I use the gasket maker silicone, put that on there, put it together, leave a little bit of space on the bolts, pull the cover back and forth so it kind of makes it gooey in between there, put the cover on, snug it up, wait a day or at least a few hours before putting lube in it, and you'll never have it leak. So this one was leaking, and it came in. It was brand new fluid. I put a catch pan to catch it, and only like maybe a half a quart came out, a quarter of a quart. So, but there it is right there. 67 Cadillac Coupe Deville. Gold big cat 4Gs, 7-inch lip 26s. All right, y'all, I'm outies. Bankroll Tim, bedded up. My fingers is cold. Peace out. What up? Bankroll Tim, bedded up. The lack is up on there. As you can see, there's no stands holding the rear end up. And if it's already that low, tucking on the lift, that means when it goes down, it drops about 2 inches. So that puts that center stuffed up in that motherfucker. I got the front control arms on it. I got the alignment a little bit done. I'll get to that in a minute. But this back stuff, like I said, I still have the 3/4 space around there, which is actually working out just fine to keep the wheel off the inner tub, which you can see the rub mark on the tire. That's how bad it was hitting the inner tub. With the rear end to the driver's side, a full inch is how they had it in there. So this was hitting the inner tub. So I got the 3/4 on this side, 3/4 on that side. So I marked the tires and put the car down, and I pushed the car up and down on the back. Try to put my knee on the bumper area right there and pushed on the trunk, you know, a solid curve. Pushed up and down real hard. The shocks were never set at any number. They're at 0. So it moves real easy. It's got a 300-pound spring in it, which a little much, but it's a big car. It works pretty good. So I, bounced up and down on it, up and down, trying to get the tires to show any type of a hit in the tub up there, as low as it sits in the back. And I couldn't get it to hit. And I mean, I was bouncing on it. Got the brake lines on there. I used the brass stuff. This car, the brake line comes down the driver's rail, and then the ear part, where it's supposed to go to a rubber, is on this side of the car. So obviously there's a braided there. I had to put the adapter there because they had the hard line running right into the braided line. So I think you can do that with bubble flare, but with standard flare you can't. So anyways, I put the adapters on there, which the little tabs on there, and the little clips. It's a little ugly, but a little paint over that. I adjusted. I took that little O-ring I've been telling you guys about, which is on the shock right there. It's right there. But anyways, I pulled it down and put it all the way on top of here, so that way when I put the car down on the ground and bounce on it, I can see how far it goes. So right there shows me we got, what, 2.5 inches of ride travel. So that works out excellent. I had to lower the springs down, and I had to move the bracket down to get the car at the height I wanted. So if this had been a regular well-done bracket without the super drop box, it would have been way down. So good for having the super drop box, good for having the strip on there, way more adjustment. You know, my style. But a lot of things out there from a lot of different shops, stuff like that, shops that's opened, you know, there's been people that opened up a couple years ago, shit like that, whatever. But you start to see, I've always put everything online. I've always, and I've said it before, Midwest Street Riders. Back then, I was putting shit on there. My name on there was Bankroll 77. So I always put up the work, whether it worked or not, or how we did it, I always put it up. So I was starting to see all these places do things that I've been doing for years. Like I was saying before about putting coilovers on a big rim car. Everybody before was totally against it. Oh, that's race car stuff. You don't put it on there, blah, blah, blah. Then with frame bracing, rear end bracing, frame bracing, double adjustment control arms, all that shit. Everybody else was against it. Some other big shops that have been around a while, you know, that frame bracing stuff, you don't need no damn bars underneath your car, all this, all that. Well, that same place now is putting bars on your cars or having it done, stuff like that. So anyways, like as you can see on this side right here, you can see that they didn't trim this skirt as far as they trimmed the other skirt. So it's barely touching. So I got to trim that, which you can see I put the marker line on there just to give me a reference. You can see the front part. Boom. So yeah, there's a lot of other things out there that people were totally against before, and this and that and blah blah, and now everybody's doing it. I was the first one to do the super drop boxes on all these cars, G-bodies and all that stuff, even on a 7.5-inch rear end, you know, whatever. It's my style. The brace on the bottom being curved like that, my style, stuff like that. Now you're starting to see other people. You know, I would get the phone calls before about, you know, why do you do that? Oh, that's stupid. Oh, you're wasting money. Oh, this and that. Well, my shop is custom. It's always been custom. We always do things custom. We laid the platform for a lot. Better Up Customs laid the platform for a lot of people and gave instructional videos, pictures, whatever. But anyways, so I'm still on this Caddy, and here was what I was talking about with the front. So as you can see, I got the collar down on the coilover because I measured in between there for heights. And then when the car's on the ground and on the plates, if the plates allow the wheel to move, the car to settle. So I can measure from the plate up to the car, you know, and figure out which side's off and stuff like that. Well, this car, I set it down on the ground and the driver's side was higher. So I was like, well, what the fuck? So I started looking at everything on it, trying to figure out what was off. And I was trying to see if the wheel was leaning in or out, but the passenger side was lower. So I was throwing the back off just a little bit, but it's got the anti-roll, so the anti-roll was helping. So the back was about 1/4 inch off, and the front was like 3/4 of an inch to an inch, maybe even a little bit more off than that. So as I kept getting in here, in and out, you know, it hit me why the car is leaning in the front. There's no sway bar. So either when the car got worked on before at the place that it was at, they took the sway bar off and never put it back on and didn't give it to dude when he got his car picked up, whatever. So now we had to order a sway bar for the car. The sway bar comes with notes saying that if the car didn't come from the factory with it, it may not fit, which I'm a fabricator, so I can make it fit. But it being a Cadillac, you would think it's a luxury vehicle. It would have came with a sway bar in the front. So there's where the fucking links go. There's the hole right there. Right through the rod, you know, right through here, boom. These holes right here, as you can see, it looks like there was a clip there. There's definitely a clip there that would hold the bolt, you know, so something was here. Whether it was these two holes or something was here because you can see the little, you see it. And then, of course, same thing on this side. But this side is showing that this guard or whatever is right here. So it wasn't mounted here, but you can see there's a little square indentation right there. So it probably goes right here. And if I got to find clips like this, I should be able to find some clips like this to be able to put it on. But I hope the sway bar comes with the metal bracket and the loop. And if not, I could probably, I think I have a set around here for my car that I could use on here. Or I got that 89 white box out back. I could probably go take it off of, take the brackets off of and the rubbers and put them on here. So yeah. Again, still waiting on the drive shaft. We had some issues with that. This is a car trans 400, not a truck. So a truck 400 would have threaded holes in here. And then how the yoke goes in is different. Well, this yoke that I have right here is a truck yoke that's been welded up. So I guess there's a difference in how, yeah, see how far the splines are in? So the shaft that was in this car that they had made was a chrome moly drive shaft from, what's that over there, Mike? South Suburban or something? Drive shaft? So I moved the rear end forward because they had the rear end way too far back. Now that I got the skirts on here, I moved it back a little bit, but not as far back as they had it. So the drive shaft guy had called and said that he thinks there's going to be an issue. So we figured out all that. So now we gave him measurement after measurement after measurement from different locations. So the drive shaft should come back and it should go right in. As you can see right here, I can still come forward, but I got to trim up here, which I want it to be forward just a little bit more, but it's all adjustable, so all good shit. So I just bled the back brakes. Getting ready to put the tank in. I gotta put the round, what do you call it, the eye hole fittings on these wires, which you got the ground, and then this is your sending unit wire. So I gotta put those on there. You seen the brand new gas tank. And if you didn't, now you do. So the brand new gas tank, right here you got a little dirt, some sticky stuff on it probably. I don't know. But the sending unit, obviously, the main wire goes there for the sending unit. And then the ground would go to one of these screws. And of course you lock it down, boom. But I had to put the sending unit in here. So 2 of the original screws, somehow I misplaced them, but they were coarse thread. This tank is fine thread. So I had to find these, which I found in my box, boom, to put this on here. There's a rubber seal underneath here. But I made sure I put this in there nice and easy so it didn't bend the float. The sock pickup is still on there. And then I picked the tank up, flipped it over. I heard it ting, ting. So the float is not stuck. It should have came with a new rubber mount coupler for here to the filler neck, but it didn't, so I had to I'm reusing the old one. I probably could go get a piece of radiator hose put on there, but the old one, it's still good. You know, it's a little dingy, but it's still good. So I had to go right on there. Got the new tank straps. Obviously, you guys know the thicker one is your feed. Your little one's your return, which this thing, we can use the little one as a breather. And then this is a breather right here, which there's a cap that was on the other tank that was in there that can go back on there. But this would be the breather. It's got the electric fuel pump under the car. Because, again, it is a LSX 376. Go up on this ladder, hopefully I don't fall. Booyah. It's got the Willwood master cylinder. But yeah, a little dirty, It's all good though. What's the other thing? So the tank's gonna get in there. Finish up the alignment and stuff like that. All right, here's another thing. These things on these cars are like radius arms or something. You know, this is that old style shit. But as you can see, while the car's in the air, this is loose. Well, if you think about it, even sitting on the ground, this would still allow this to move. Well, we don't want none of this moving. So, in all the years of all these cars I've done, I think that's what I had to do is put a spacer or something behind here to tighten it up more without moving it too far. I did something. Maybe it was on the back side. But both sides are like that. Which I don't think anybody touched it because I don't think they knew what they were doing anyways. I mean, obviously they didn't. But yeah. My birthday tomorrow, the 12th. I'll be 46. Crazy. Time flies. The older you get, the faster it goes. Malibu. Malibu, Malibu. See that. Cutlass. I gotta get on this cutlass. I gotta get this front end knocked out, fabbed up, painted up, bolted up. I gotta get on this. So right after this, I'm on that. All right, y'all. I bored you enough for today. And there we are. Bankroll Tim, bet it up. I'm out.